During World War II, the United States government told every American family to raise chickens. Not asked, told. They printed posters, published pamphlets, made films with titles like Victory in an Eggshell. By 1943, 18 million American households were growing their own food. Millions of them kept backyard hens, laying every single day, without commercial feed, without antibiotics, without heated coops, using 6 techniques so effective, so dangerously simple, that the feed industry spent the next 80 years making sure you never learned them. They did not stop teaching these methods because they failed. They stopped because they worked too well. A family that feeds chickens for free does not buy $40 bags of pellets. A flock that stays healthy on kitchen scraps does not need $50 medications. And knowledge that cannot be packaged cannot be sold. So they buried it under 80 years of marketing that convinced you raising chickens is complicated. It is not. This is the story of the wartime tricks that kept America fed and the industry that prayed you would never find them. Welcome to the Backyard Vault. Before we open this vault, if these forgotten histories matter to you, the best way to preserve this knowledge is simple. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Share this with someone who deserves to know what was erased. Every subscription helps spread what they tried to bury. Now, trick number 1. The fermented mash. In 1942, in a farmhouse outside Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a woman named Edna had a problem most Victory flock families shared. Her husband was overseas. She had 12 hens, 2 children, and almost no money for feed. Commercial rations existed but were expensive, and grain was being diverted to the war effort, so Edna did what her grandmother taught her. She took whatever grain she could find, cracked corn, whole oats, wheat berries, and soaked them in a stoneware crock covered with a cloth. Not for an hour, for 3 days. By the 3rd day, the mixture was bubbling gently. It smelled like fresh sourdough. When she fed it to her hens, they ate less, but they laid more. This was not magic. This was microbiology. When grain sits in water for 48 to 72 hours, lactobacillus bacteria break down starches and sugars. Fermentation does 3 things the feed industry does not want you to understand. First, it destroys phytic acid, the anti-nutrient in all grains that blocks absorption of calcium, phosphorus, and zinc. Studies in the journal Poultry Science showed fermentation increases nutrient absorption by up to 30%. Second, it creates natural probiotics that crowd out harmful bacteria like Salmonella. No antibiotics needed. Third, fermented mash is more filling. Hens eat 20 to 30% less feed while maintaining or increasing production. 20 to 30% less feed. Same eggs. Often more. This technique was standard in Europe and Asia for centuries. The National Poultry Institute published guides recommending fermented mash as far back as 1920. After the war, the feed industry rebranded it as old-fashioned and unsanitary. Within 1 generation, a method that fed millions of families vanished from common knowledge. Trick number 2. The sprouted grain tray. This is the technique the 1920 book Everybody's Standard Poultry Feed Book called essential for every flock. Take whole oats, soak them overnight, drain them, spread them on a shallow tray, rinse twice a day. In 3 to 4 days, you have a mat of bright green sprouts. The transformation is not just visual, it is chemical. Sprouting converts stored starch into bioavailable vitamins. Vitamin A increases dramatically. Vitamin C, absent in dry grain, appears. Protein becomes easier to digest. Enzymes activate that the dry seed kept locked away. Victory flock families grew sprouted oats on windowsills, in barns, in makeshift trays from scrap wood. 1 tray per day, rotated, gave a flock of 12 hens a daily dose of fresh greens all winter long. A living vitamin supplement that cost pennies and replaced expensive commercial additives. Here is what I need you to understand before we continue. I have gathered the 6 techniques, the historical sources, and the studies mentioned in this video into a complete document. The link is in the description. It is yours. Now, back to what the industry does not want you to know. Trick number 3. The deep litter method. This one has the most documented science behind it and the strangest origin story. In 1946, researchers Kennard and Chamberlin at the Ohio Agricultural Experiment Station in Wooster, Ohio, made an accidental discovery. During the war, labor was scarce. Women running farms alone did not have time to clean coops every week, so the bedding piled up. Straw, shavings, and droppings mixed together for months. And instead of disease, something unexpected happened. The chickens got healthier. Dramatically healthier. Before the deep litter method, the Ohio station recorded an average mortality rate of 19% across 18,000 chicks. Coccidiosis, a deadly intestinal parasite, hit almost every brood. After switching to built-up litter that was never fully removed, mortality dropped to 7%, and coccidiosis virtually disappeared. 11 consecutive broods raised on the same old litter with no noticeable trouble from coccidiosis. The science was published in 1949. Here is why it works. As litter decomposes, beneficial microbes colonize it. These microbes produce vitamin B12, vitamin K, and natural antibiotic compounds. The ammonia generated in the composting process kills coccidia at levels too low to harm the birds. Kennard and Chamberlin wrote, and I quote, "Old built-up litter is drier, more absorbent, and less obnoxious than fresh litter after a few days' use." The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations later confirmed that the microflora in deep litter produces growth factors and antibiotic substances which help control pathogenic bacteria. Chickens raised on deep litter were also less prone to cannibalism. This was not a theory, it was a proven, published, replicated result, and it meant one devastating thing for the pharmaceutical industry. A co-op managed with deep litter does not need coccidiosis vaccines, does not need medicated starter feed, does not need antibiotics, a method that costs nothing and prevents the disease that kills 20% of chicks. Think about that number. 20%, 1 in 5 chicks. Dead, unless you use a technique from 1946 that the industry would rather you buy your way out of. Trick number 4. Kitchen scrap integration. During rationing, wasting food was practically a crime. British wartime posters commanded citizens to save every scrap for their hens. American Victory flock families did the same. Vegetable peels, stale bread, meat scraps, dairy leftovers from butter and cheese making. Raw milk and buttermilk were fed to chicks and laying hens as protein supplements. Families who kept a dairy cow had a nearly free protein source that replaced the most expensive component of commercial feed. If you have made it this far, you already know more about wartime chicken keeping than 99% of backyard flock owners. Subscribe so you do not miss the next vault. Now, here is where the story gets uncomfortable. Trick number 5. Water glassing. This is the preservation method that made backyard flocks viable year-round, even when hens stopped laying in winter. It dates back to the 1800s and was widely used through both world wars. The concept is devastatingly simple. Take fresh, unwashed eggs. The natural bloom, that invisible protective coating the hen deposits on every egg, must be intact. Mix 1 ounce of pickling lime, also called calcium hydroxide, into 1 quart of water. Pour the solution into a stoneware crock or food-grade bucket. Lower the eggs in gently. The lime solution seals every pore of the shell, creating an airtight barrier. Eggs preserved this way stay fresh for 12 to 18 months. Some families reported good eggs after 2 full years. No refrigeration, no electricity, no processing. A gallon of solution costs less than $1 and preserves dozens of eggs. During the war, families would collect eggs through spring and summer when production peaks and water glass them in crocks stored in the cellar. By December, when the hens slowed down, those families still had fresh eggs for baking, cooking, and eating. The original method used sodium silicate, which was sold at pharmacies and recommended by the United States Department of Agriculture. A USDA bulletin from the 1940s specifically promoted water glass preservation for home flocks. Today, most people use pickling lime instead, which is more natural and widely available. The eggs come out looking and tasting identical to the day they were laid. But here is the question nobody asks. Why does the average American think eggs only last a few weeks? Because the grocery store egg has been washed, sanitized, stripped of its bloom. It is dead on arrival, dependent on refrigeration from the moment it leaves the factory. A backyard egg with its bloom intact is a self-preserving miracle of biology. And the industry that sells you eggs with a 3-week shelf life has no interest in you knowing that a homestead egg can last a year. Trick number 6. Chicken and garden integration. This is the one they erased most thoroughly because it eliminates the need for both commercial feed and commercial fertilizer at the same time. Victory flock families did not keep chickens in one place and a garden in another. They rotated them. Hens were given access to garden beds after harvest. They scratched the soil, ate insect larvae, devoured weed seeds, and deposited manure directly where next season's crops would grow. Research has shown that pastured chickens can reduce soil pests by up to 70%. Their manure is among the highest nitrogen fertilizers in the animal kingdom, and the insects they eat replace the protein that would otherwise come from expensive feed supplements. One small flock, one garden, feeding each other in an endless loop. This is not a hack. It is the system that sustained small farms for thousands of years. The system that made commercial feed, commercial fertilizer, and commercial pest control unnecessary. 3 industries. Exposed by 12 chickens and a 1/4 acre of dirt. Now you understand why they buried these 6 tricks. The American feed industry generates over $40 billion in annual revenue. $40 billion. Selling what? Cornmeal, soybean meal, and synthetic additives, mixed in a ratio that any family with a 50-pound bag of grain and a 5-gallon bucket could replicate for 1/10 of the price. The poultry pharmaceutical industry sells billions more in vaccines, antibiotics, and supplements, many targeting coccidiosis, the exact disease that deep litter prevents for free. And the grocery egg industry depends entirely on consumers believing that eggs are fragile, perishable products that require cold chain logistics from farm to store. They are not if the bloom is intact, not if you know about water glassing. You cannot patent fermented grain. You cannot patent a compost floor. You cannot patent kitchen scraps or sprouted oats or a stoneware crock full of lime water. And what cannot be patented cannot be monetized. And what cannot be monetized must be forgotten. So they replaced knowledge with dependency. They replaced self-sufficiency with subscription. They made you believe that without their products, your chickens would die. They would not. They survived 5,000 years without a single bag of commercial feed. So here is how you bring all 6 tricks home. Start with the fermented mash. Take any whole grain, oats, wheat, or cracked corn and cover it with water in a glass jar or ceramic crock. Cover loosely. Stir once a day. After 3 days, drain and feed. Your chickens will eat less. Your feed bill drops immediately. Build a sprouting tray from scrap wood or an old baking sheet. Soak whole oats overnight, spread thin, rinse daily. In 4 days, you have a living green supplement that replaces commercial vitamin additives. Stop cleaning your coop every week. Start the deep litter method. Lay down 6 inches of pine shavings. Toss scratch grain in daily so the birds turn it. Add fresh shavings when the surface cakes. Never remove all the litter. Let the microbes do their work. Save every kitchen scrap. Vegetable peels, stale bread, leftover rice, melon rinds. What you throw away is what your grandparents fed their flocks. Water glass, your spring and summer eggs. 1 ounce pickling lime, 1 quart water in a food-grade bucket. Unwashed eggs only. Store in a cool, dark place. You will have eggs in January that taste like June. And integrate your garden. Let the hens into harvested beds. They will debug, fertilize, and till the soil in exchange for free food. A homesteader in Ohio runs 30 hens this way and spends less than $20 a month on supplemental grain. The same flock on commercial feed would cost over $200. Do the math, then ask yourself why nobody taught you this. So what did you learn today? Not a shortcut. Not a trend. You learned a right. The right to feed your family with real eggs from real hens raised in your own backyard without asking permission from any corporation. Your great-grandparents knew every one of these 6 tricks. The United States government printed them on posters and mailed them to every household in America. Then the war ended, and the industry made you forget. But the knowledge did not die. It survived in old books on dusty shelves, in crocks of lime water, in forgotten cellars, in coops with litter that no one cleaned because no one needed to. It survived because the truth is stubborn like that. If this video showed you something you did not know, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Every share pulls one more buried trick out of the ground. Subscribe. Hit the bell. The next vault opens soon, and what is inside will change the way you look at your coop forever.